All right, good morning, guys and gals. All right, so this is a little mini lesson on IXL skills for pre-calc level A.8 and A11. But before we begin, I want to just mention a couple of things. You're going to need to do work for IXL in order to answer the questions properly, and that's either going to require good old trusty rusty paper, or perhaps you've got some things at home. So I created my own little whiteboard by taking a sheet protector, and I printed off a grid from mathaids.com. They have free graph paper, different templates of graph paper, but this was a good one. And then on the back, I just have, the back side of the paper, which is just blank paper. So it's a great way to show your work, to get your answers for IXL, and then erase them when you're done. And so that's kind of nice. Of course, I'm using my own Expo marker. But it's an option for you if you have those materials. Otherwise, just paper. I know some of you, I have your notes at school. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know if you'll be able to get them or not. I'll consider them your gift to me. Maybe at some point, maybe next school year, I don't know. The other thing I wanted to remind you is that your goal on IXL is an 85 or better. But really, it's whatever you want it to be. And so once you get to 85, just stop. You can close the program or switch skills and move on to the next skill, whatever you want to do. You don't have to get 100. 100 is wonderful. If you're like, this is super easy, I'm going to get 100, then get 100. But I don't need you to spend 2 hours trying to get a 100. Okay. So, if you've been working all day outside because your parents are making you do yard work and you're just tired, maybe your goal is an 80, and that's fine. So you decide. An 85 is my recommendation. But whatever you want to do in terms of how high you want to go. A few useful formulas here. We are writing equations of lines, and we're going to add, subtract, and multiply, divide functions. Just a little refresher. We've already done these things, but I know I have a lot of your notebooks, so you might not have your notes, which is kind of a bummer. So a few useful formulas here. Probably want to make note of. Formula for slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Here we have point slope form, which really is just the slope formula where I've taken the denominator and multiplied it over here to the m. So you can see you'd get m times the quantity, x2 minus x1. It's really the same formula, just rearranged a little bit. But we're going to use point slope form if they give us a point and a slope. And then our final answers for skill A8 need to be in slope-intercept form where the y is by itself. And it'll work great. So here we go. Example 1. Write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. Given we have a point. I'm going to use a different color. There we go. They tell us we have a point of 2, 7, and we have a slope of 2 for this line, which means that m equals 2. You can pause the video whenever you need. I'm not going to wait for you to write things because you can just pause the video. So pause the video, rewind the video if you need to. It's your choice if you want to write down these instructions. Maybe you don't even need to actually watch these videos because you remember how to do all of these things. Fantastic. But these are just little pointers to help you get through your IXL skills. Maybe refresh your memory. It's totally up to you if you're writing this stuff down or even watching the video. So keep that in mind. Since I have a point and a slope, I'm going to use point slope form. So I'm going to start by writing that down. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And so In point slope form, I'm going to replace the x1 and the slope and the y1. And of course, the x1 and y1 come from the point that I was given, and then we have our slope of 2. So I'm going to go ahead and just plug those values in. So y minus 7 equals 2 times the quantity, x minus a 2. And of course, watch your negatives. If this was a negative 2, we would have x minus a negative 2, which would turn to a positive symbol. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and distribute. This is point slope form. The directions on IXL say you want this equation in slope intercept form, and that's really, really important. And that means you have to get the y by itself. And they're going to want you to simplify, I believe, as much as possible. So we have y minus 7 equals 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And I'm going to go ahead and add the 7. So I have y equals 2x, and that's going to be a plus 3. So this is a great equation. You will have to type in the y equals in IXL. If you don't have the y equals when you type it in and just wrote 2x plus 3, that's not an equation. That's an expression. An equation must have an equal sign, and since it's an equation of a line, it's got to have x's and y's. So be careful about that. Over here, they're giving us 2 points, and so we want to find the slope first. And so to find the slope, we're going to subtract y2 minus y1, negative 4 minus a negative 8 over x2 minus x1, 5 minus 7. Again, minus the negative is really plus. So we have negative 4 plus 8 is 4. 5 minus 7 is negative 2. And that's going to give us a slope of negative 2. And then, now that we have a slope and a point, and it doesn't matter which point you use here. You can use either one. I'm going to go ahead and just use the second point, just because the numbers are smaller. And now that I have a slope and a point, I'm going to plug it into point slope form. So y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And let's see, so I have y minus my y value, minus the negative 4 is going to turn to plus 4. And then I have negative 2 times the quantity x minus 5. I'm going to go ahead and distribute. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10. And I'm going to go ahead and subtract 4. I think I get plus 6. Y equals negative 2x plus 6. All of these things, of course, you can check on your calculator if you want to be absolutely sure that you get this done as quickly as possible. So negative 2x plus 6. And I'm just going to check to make sure. Oh, am I really? Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm just going to check to make sure that my line passes through these 2 points. And I can do that using trace. So trace, and I'm just going to type in 7. And it spits out a negative 8, so that's awesome. And 5 for x, and it spits out a negative 4. So it does pass through those 2 points. So I know that's a perfect equation. All right. Now, function operations, you guys are going to be asked to add, subtract, multiply, and divide functions together using some function notation. And again, we have done this before. And really it's just working with function notation. So this is telling me we want to do f minus g. And the thing we have to remember is we are subtracting an entire function. So be careful. If we want to do f minus g, then we're taking our f function, negative 3x plus 6, and we're subtracting the entire g function in this case. So you want to make sure that you subtract everything, which really means use parentheses. Be very careful. So negative x squared and a negative 9x, distributing that negative. And then you can just combine like terms. And let's see, I've got negative x squared. I have negative 3x and negative 9x, which is negative 12x. Yes, I did have to count that. It's early. And then the plus 6. And this is what we could type in to our answer field on IXL. Now I wanted to do the division because it's kind of weird. It tells you to write the function in lowest terms, and I was just wondering what that really meant. I still really don't know. But basically, we want to do f over g here. And I did a handful of problems, and really, I didn't have to simplify anything. F is negative x squared plus 1, and g is 3x squared. Now, technically, I could divide these and maybe get, using long division or whatever, I could divide these things and clean this up. But I didn't have to do that in IXL. So this is what I entered in IXL, but then there's another field where it says x cannot equal something. And so anytime we have a denominator here, we want to remember that that denominator is not allowed to be 0. And so what value would make it 0? 0 in this case. If your denominator was, let's say x squared minus 1 was that denominator there. Well, that whole denominator is not allowed to be 0. We could solve moving the 1 and then taking a square root. So x is not allowed to be plus or minus 1. And if that's the case, then in that field, I think you would probably say x could not equal 1, comma, negative 1. I think when there's multiple answers, it's going to want you to separate it with a comma. So make sure that you read the fine print when it asks you to simplify. All right, so those are really easy things. Now you should be able to get through A8 and A11 on your pre-cal skills.